And hello there, friends and fans. I apologize that it has been so long since I have been on. I started a YouTube channel and got hit by work, a lot of work, which is not a bad thing. It's a very good thing. But unfortunately, it means that I had to neglect some other things like my YouTube channel. So hopefully this video will start to make up for that, as I plan to have more content available as I go and soon, and just need to make a habit out of it and get into the swing of it. So just to bear with me while I'm getting new video content up. And if you would, before I start, leave this video a like. That'll get me more notoriety, help people come see my work, and subscribe, because that way you can catch all the latest info. And after you subscribe, hit the bell button for notifications and alerts so that you know when I put new stuff up, it'll pop up right away. Really appreciate it. Love you guys. Let's get into it. So I've been working on a set of family portraits that are based around, kind of a haunted mansion kind of theme. And what you're looking at right now is a rough sketch that I'm tightening up so that I can paint on top of it. The rough sketch is a little too rough for my taste. The painting series is called the Macabre McMorbidlys, and if you're in England or someone with more proper English, Macabre McMorbidlys. Let's get that right. This character's name is Illuminatria McMorbidly. She started off as the handmaiden to Dame Violenta McMorbidly, who is the kind of matriarch of the household. Very old. She looks like she's been freshly unwrapped from her tomb. And these are characters that are kind of based back in Victorian times, or kind of an amorphous period of time, 1800s, think like that. Because I didn't want it to be modern. These are made to be photos that someone has probably, say, an archaeologist or a historian has dug up from underneath the family house, kind of a thing. You know what? I don't like the way that's looking. I started off with too dark a pencil. Let's fix that. And they found these photos, and these photos kind of portray this weird family that no one up until recently has ever heard of, until they started digging around the records after finding the name on this moldy old box. And inside the box they found these just photos that are cracked and broken and kind of a little bit messed up. And that's kind of the basis, and they were found under the ruins of an old house that nobody remembers the name of, and it's McMorbidly Manor. And they are researching this family. Well, this woman is, like I said, the former handmaiden of the matriarch. This woman's name is Illuminatria. She actually married the son of the matriarch to become kind of the working head of the household, and they had kids, and one of them is Snarlette, who you've seen if you've looked at my website. She's a little girl that has a little bit of a tendency to taxidermy everything. You didn't have to buy her stuffed animals, she'll just make her own. That's the idea behind it. So like I said, we're cleaning this up, and I just tried to enlarge this with my fingers. I'm so used to using my iPad Pro now. There we go, there's the brush size. A little too big. Let's keep that a little bit lighter. So I'm just giving myself better guidelines to work off of when I paint, and I'll do this in a multi-step process. So the next video will probably start the painting, because I'd like to really, for you guys, do a complete painting in parts so you can really get an idea for how I work. And I love detail. I have a very high attention to detail. That's my strong point for a lot of my illustrations and character designs. And I used to make the mistake of going too detailed too quick. I've since started, when I was young, and as you mature, you understand you have to block things in with shapes and whatnot. And those of you that have seen my other videos understand, and live streams understand, that that's the key to getting a good character design down, or whatever. I recently did a day-long a one-day-long kind of workshop under Steven Silver, who is a king in the character design industry. The dude's awesome. He designed the characters for Danny Phantom and Kim Possible, and I was fortunate enough to be able to sign up and get into his class, because no matter how professional you are, or how many jobs you have under your belt, you always have something to learn. No matter who you are, there's always something to be gleaned from someone else's expertise, and I have a high respect for Mr. Silver. And Steven's a really nice guy and incredibly passionate about sharing knowledge. And if I had a tenth of that kind of passion, you'd see a lot more YouTube videos up. He just has this inexhaustible amount of energy when it comes to sharing this kind of thing. So anyway, back to Illuminatria here. Now, she is of Egyptian origin, so I'm going to give her a bit more of an not olive tone, because all the finished paintings for these family are sepia tone, or a semi-sepia tone, and I'm just going to give her slightly darkened skin to show that she's of a different ethnical, is that a word? A different ethnicity or origin. She married into the family later, and she's a youngish woman. I don't like to assign age, because I like for people to read into a lot of these characters on their own and figure it out. So if someone looks young, they might not necessarily be. Maybe they've come up with some infernal or nefarious way of extending their age, or some, kind of silly thing like that. But her eyes are so big and so wide, because I needed her to look a lot like Snarlette, because Snarlette's her daughter, and Snarlette has massive eyes, and the way I'm doing the pupils, making them small, makes the eyes look almost illuminated. So I thought, what if this woman, who is, a practicer of some Egyptian occult something or other, what if she has a fascination with the ornateness of lampshades? And what if she just loved the way they looked and she wanted her hair to look like one? So I've come up with this idea that she's got kind of a lampshade style hair. And for those that buy the McMorbidly prints, there is a character bio and a edition number on the back of each print. I stick them in the little poly bags that I store them in and sell them in, and it'll have her name and bio on there, who she is and what she's all about. I always put the McMorbidly Family M seal on each character somewhere. She went through 3 or 4 iterations. She went through, about 4 iterations. I started off with a completely different hairstyle, and sometimes the characters, I know exactly what I want right away, and I work hard at it, and I get them to look exactly what's in my head. Some of them evolve along the way, and she's one of those. I really loved how she developed over time, and I didn't want to lose that particular development, so I started adding things as I went, take away a few things here and there. I started off with like little skulls hanging from, because old, say, Tiffany style lamps or older, Tiffany is the stained glass lamps that are, fairly popular and very expensive, and older lamps used to have fringes and things like that hang from them, like little tassels and whatnot. Well, she's got these tassels that are hanging down from this decorative kind of element in her hair, and I'm thinking, shrunken heads would be cool. When wouldn't they be? But I thought, well, maybe if I want them to look still tassel-like and less like she's actually killed a bunch of people and hung them from her head, which in this particular family wouldn't be a bad thing to do for the style and the theme. I'm thinking maybe if I had woven little like jack-o'-lanterns hanging with little tassels hanging from them, so they're actually made out of the weaving and they're shaped like jack-o'-lanterns. So I'm thinking that might be the way I go. You never know, I could go back to the shrunken heads. It's one of those things that, like I said, an evolving character, it might look really good. And trying to keep the same overall spacing and design, because asymmetry, which is things are weighted equally on both sides but not with the exact same shape on both sides, That's asymmetry. Symmetry is everything is perfectly equal on both sides, and I tend to mix things up, but I really want her hair to look perfectly coiffed and symmetrical, so I'm working hard on that. Because, you know, there is something like if you watch, you know, the Addams Family, or, you know, some kind of similar thing to what I'm doing, there's just as much elegance and beauty in the way some things are designed in families like, or family shows like that, as there are things that aren't. And as much as some of these things are going to be dark, they also should be beautiful. So I've flipped her back and forth now. A trick, and I've said this many times, a trick you can do if you're a beginner to make sure something looks really good or you haven't made any drawing mistakes. And this program that I'm using is Clip Studio Paint. It's really good with this. It has a little tool that allows you to flip the image back and forth. You can see immediately if there's an issue with alignment, or, you know, if something's shaped a little weird, like this didn't line up real well the way I wanted it to. You can flip back and forth, and, you know, and also for this kind of stuff, I actually liked her facing, I started her off in this direction, and I changed to this, and I'm like, you know what, I like that so much better. There's just something about it. And these sets that I do for this family, I do, you know, sets of 4, so she is number 1 of set D. I've done 12 other portraits, set A, B, and C. Set C is the family pets. You should really check those out on my website, which is tkylgentry.com, tkylегentry.com. And you can go to my Macabre McMorbidly portrait gallery area there and see the rest of them. But I try to do 2 women and 2 men, or 2 girls, 2 boys, whatever, in each set, and that includes the pets, except for the fish, which is Snydra is Snydra. You'll love it. I won't tell you much more about that fish until you go see it. I may have assigned gender to it in the description. I can't remember offhand. But like I said, we're just going to keep this nice and light, and I might do a couple of tight family members in here, the tight drawings for the family members. It's just getting the line cleaned up. That's all I'm doing, is taking all those scribbly lines, which are beautiful in their own way. I love the scribbly lines. I really do. But I need them to be tight so that I can paint over them. Some people can paint with the loose lines, and that's part of the expression in what they do. I love that. I think it's great. I encourage it. It is not my bag. I love precision. And recently I had lunch with an old college buddy of mine who is now a teacher at the Ringling College of Art and Design, and he and I remarked, you know, my original problems I had with everything with color and understanding color and composition, and I loved line, and I loved the detail of line. Well, I've overcome the color problem. You know, it's just time and education and experience. And the line, he always remarked on how clean I like to keep my lines, and how, you know, even with scribbly stuff, there's still a beauty to those lines. And he said whenever I was doing color, I would spend all this time making the line work because it made my coloring easier, it made my painting easier. And for those of you that are struggling with color, the best way to view it, or not color composition, but how to paint, I should say, not so much color, I'll get to that in a second, but how to paint is to view painting, if you're doing a traditional painting, not digital, paint like you draw. You envision your paintbrush as a pencil instead of a brush, and you will do better because your brain is geared towards drawing. Everybody draws first, you know. But as far as color goes, honestly, I recommend, if you struggle with it and you're not able to take classes, there are many good books on color composition. You need just books on color theory and composition and how colors work together. It's a lot of it is just practical fact. Some of it is applied theory almost in how artists use their own style to dictate that. But I would suggest that you find a really good book on color theory, and that will help immensely. Why does that color not go with this one? Why do these things clash when they go together? You know, well, maybe they're too complementary. Complementary colors tend to clash. Red and green are complementary colors. Blue and orange are complementary colors. Purple and yellow are complementary colors. And if you don't know how a color wheel works, look at a color wheel. If the colors are exactly on the opposite end of the color wheel from each other, they are perfectly complementary. That is how it works. Just making sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm making sure I have the same number of loops on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that it's asymmetrical. And I drew them maybe a little bit too long right there. Go back up. I made the circles too big. Like I said, for this one, it's all about symmetry. There we go. That's better. And these kind of don't matter because it's the angle might shift. But yeah, she's supposed to be menacing. That's the whole character, you know. So I'm designing the last known generation of McMorbidly family. Like this particular tight-knit family is the last known of their family. So what I'm going to be doing is going back through their history, not forward to now. I could do a special thing in the future where they find out that, you know, there are surviving family members and they've been hidden this whole time. That would be fun. But, and this is hair that's within these bands. This is just a kind of a headdress thing that she's wearing. That's the deal. It is her hair, and she has a lot of it, and it's just the way she's done it up. Now, I have no idea how she get it this way. I'm not a hairdresser or stylist. That's why I can have fun with art, because I'm taking artistic license and creating something that I want to do. Because as an artist, you can do anything you want. Learning how to create good art is all about making it plausible. Especially with imaginative type of stuff is what I'm talking about, not with everything. This is the kind of art that I enjoy doing. She has a big scarab beetle kind of jewelry piece. And when I paint, when you go to my website and you look at the other characters, you can see the complexity of the paint. I tend to spend, you know, I do work big to small. Best way to do detail is to leave the detail for last. I already have it in my head what I want it to look like. I just have a better understanding of how to create that. And big shapes first, big shadows first, big highlights first, then you start working down in the detail and making sure the shadows from a single light source match all across a body. And there is something to say about creating a general light source with a general shadow system, and that's used a lot in cartoon art, things like that. But for something fairly dramatic, you want to use a single light source and figure that out from there. And that I highly recommend looking at what things look like under a light. Pull out a lamp, pull out basic shape objects, something that's round, something that's tubular, something that's a cone shaped, and setting a light all around it, and look at how the light affects it. Look at what happens to that light, and look at what happens to the shadow because of that light. She's got this kind of corset thing going on. Maybe it's got stripes right up until there, and then she's got some kind of intricate design and pattern and weave. One thing about this period of time, or several periods of time that I'm looking at as reference, is the ornateness of things. We are not nearly as ornately dressed as history shows what humans used to do in different parts of the world. And I like to show that in my work. I'm just indicating shadow and highlight. Just got these big bangs that hang down. And she does have a background behind her, like there's a wallpaper. If you look at my other portraits, if you've never seen them before, there is a wallpaper Make sure. There we go. Okay, so we've got these kind of pumpkin-like weavings, or not weavings, but tassel balls, whatever. Make sure they're centered. And I'll be messing around with the placement of things. I know they look a little odd. So basically we're getting a line that goes this way and a line that goes this way. So we're still emulating that across the board. And I noticed, the good thing is I noticed that the original sketch I had, some of these things down here, like down here, were too low. So I'm fixing that now, and I'm making it more symmetrical, as I explained. You know, of course, the little pearls or whatever they're hanging from are blocking the view of the ones in the back. You know, you'll see a lot of old lamps and things like that have pull chains with tassels. That's kind of like what we're talking. I'm just drawing lines because a lot of this stuff I don't have to draw every little detail. I can do that with a paint, and that's where I'm good with detail. Is if it's a texture, I can draw it very quickly with paint, and you learn how to do it too. And I know I'm flipping back and forth verbally between what someone who's a beginner needs to know and what someone who's been doing this for a while understands, you know, intuitively after practice, but I'm speaking to a wider audience. Just get these things, and I can erase as I go for getting the lines right, and you can make them a little bit arbitrary. Like that's what I'm going to do here. Is not, they're not all going to be, you know, she doesn't need to be completely perfectly symmetrical, but she definitely needs to look like she takes a lot of pride and thought into how she looks. You know, she really does want to look this menacing. You know, and the big M, of course, up here. They all wear that insignia. It's just the family thing. It's the way it is. And she does have dark leather gloves on. Those long, long gloves that go all the way down. You know, maybe it's a little bit of a fetish thing. You know, I don't get into that with my artwork too much because it's more family friendly, but, you know, I can hint at it and still be funny. And I may pull in, when I'm doing the paint, may pull in design elements that allude to a more Egyptian kind of a history. And we're talking cliche Egyptian, like stuff you'd see in cartoons and things like that, stuff that is readily identifiable. I'm not trying to insult anybody. Just to entertain. Yeah, so we'll indicate eyes on these woven kind of tassel ball things and a nose. And maybe that it's pointed the other direction so you're seeing the back end of the heads here, so they're always facing out no matter which way she's looking. And I might make them all different, which would be really fun. It's more time consuming, but hey, you know, we're all about making things unique, right? So give them all different expressions and whatnot. That would be a lot of fun. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. My wife thinks that I'm nuts whenever I add something new like that because it's who I am, it's what I do, and she knows it. She just thinks I'm crazy whenever I decide, oh, hey, this needs this, and it's going to take another 4 hours to do it. But you know what? It's going to look good, and it's going to make the piece or break the piece without it. Like, if I don't have it in there, but I know it's going to look good, it'll absolutely make what I want it, you know. All right, so she's relatively well cleaned up. I can add color on her. I know roughly what I'm going to do with her with the color. So we'll do one more. So let me save this, and I will open up another one and do it tight on them. And let's see. Let me do the judge. The judge is the patriarch of the family. It's Dame Violente's husband. I've been getting a lot of requests for her husband, this old grizzled dude. And yeah, there he is. Judge Malleus McMorbidly. He has the highest amount of death sentences ever handed down in a court system. If there's a hung jury, you can be sure he's the one who hung him. That's the deal with him. So we're going to work on him a little bit, and then I'll probably end this video, just make it short and sweet, but, you know, just to let you know I'm still here, and, you know, it's still, I'm going to find a different pencil. There we go. See if I can, nope, it's not what I want. I like playing with some things. Playing with, there it is, rough pencil. I like playing with different tools just to see if I like something better, you know, that kind of thing. So yeah, this dude is a menacing dude. And I'll probably pull my website up at the end of the video so you can see more of the family members, maybe if you're a first-time subscriber, a first-time viewer of my work. So let's get into this. Yeah, he is an old dude. Let's take that. There we go. I noticed the lines in the last one I did weren't as big as I would have liked. But just so you know, these rough, scribbly underdrawings, I did those on an iPad Pro using two different programs. I use a lot of Procreate, which a lot of artists do, and I also used Sketchbook by Autodesk. Great program. Each has its strengths and weaknesses. Procreate, I love Procreate, but Procreate's biggest problem is they don't have any good blending brushes. You can't blend. I love having brushes that blend colors together, and you don't really have that in theirs. You know, they do everything else, and I really think they need to add that in, because people keep trying to make brushes that behave that way, but they really don't. You know, some people see blending brushes as a weakness. You need to learn how to do it with color. I like both. I like the option of having a blending brush. In Sketchbook, it is the better of the two as far as user interface. It's very, very, very intuitive. It has things like guides, like movable compass, movable ruler, things like that. And you can place it wherever you want, change the size wherever you want. It makes drawing circles and perfect ellipses just dreamy. I mean, that's the only word I can use. It really, if you're an artist of any caliber and you've ever struggled with that, you'd use the same word too. You'd turn into a 1950s high school girl for a split second when you do it, and do a little squeal and just be so happy that you can now do something like that and get those perfect curves down and, you know, play with it. Yeah, this dude he's definitely sinister and maybe a little bit haunted by all the people he's sent to the gallows and, you know, whatnot. I have thought about changing the way his ascot is around his neck and giving him a little hangman's noose or something like that. So I'm going to figure out a way to work that element into the drawing. I think it'll be just as significant as his name Malleus, which is Latin for hammer. I figured Judge's hammer, you know, he's got big bushy eyebrows. I like to do big bushy eyebrows. They're unkempt. You know, he's kind of a wild man with the power of a judge is how I wanted it to be. And you know, he's ancient. Once you see his wife, you'll understand why maybe he's as frazzled as he is, because she is perfectly coiffed and preserved, I think is the best word. Violenta is a very, very demanding woman, and according to her bio, it is said that there is a jar that she carries around with her that might be what's left of her heart. Because, you know, her Egyptian handmaiden, the one that married her son, used to take care of her, and, you know, the Egyptians took out their internal organs of the dead that were being mummified. So it seemed fairly significant to add something like that in there. Yeah, but still working on the backstory for Malleus. He's a very, very... he's the kind of guy that if you're going trick-or-treating at his house, you just avoid his house altogether. You know, which is hilarious because of the McMorbidly house, you'd think that that would be like the perfect family. You know, the perfect family to go trick-or-treating at, because it would be wonderful, and, you know, maybe without him there, it would have been. So yeah, I kind of scribbled in some hair here without really placing any. And he is wearing an old world judge's wig. It signified authority. His has seen better days. It's going to be all scraggly. And he's got what I call the Bob Hope scoop nose. If you ever look at pictures of Bob Hope, and you see his nose in the way I describe it, you'll never see it that way again. You could scoop dirt with that thing. Like, you could use it as a shovel. It's hilarious. And that was where the inspiration was. And I'm thinking Drummel, if you look it up and you see Squire Drummel, his son, his nose is very bent. And it indicates that he maybe was a violent man, got into fights when he was younger. Maybe it's been broken so many times, that's the way it ended up. So, man has a muffin top on his chin, followed by another muffin top, and, you know, probably some more double chins underneath all that. So we're going to indicate the wig. And there is a subtlety to, like, because these are all basically long tubes that are basically braided, laid over one another. That's their basic shape. You know, if you look at an old judge's wig, I'm you know, exaggerating the shapes and things like that, and how they look, because I want it to look aged. But you also have to learn, because this thing is subtly turning and you're looking at the outside of the curl instead of the inside, you have to do it in such a way that looks realistic and still cartoony at the same time. It's realistic exaggeration may sound like an ironic term, but it's a real thing. How do you exaggerate something to a point where it still looks like it could be realistic? It's a big part of character design. At least in my book it is. And I've put the family M as the pin on his ascot, just like his son. Drummel has one on his. He's got little skulls on his ascot. And I'm going to leave it the way it is right now. Like I said, I'm going to work in a hangman's noose somewhere in this design. As I paint, I'll figure it out. I always do. It's one of those things, just like I said with the previous drawing with all the faces on the little tassels. It's something to add on, and it's absolutely worth it. And it might be time-consuming and frustrating to figure out, but it's going to be great. I might, you know what? Let's take this and move it down here, and maybe have the family crest hanging by a hangman's noose right here. It'll look better once I've painted it, of course. And maybe he's got a rope around his neck. Yeah, there you go. Okay, let me erase that and make it a little bit more clear so I can give myself a good indication. So hangman's nooses do that, and then they... Yeah, so I've roughed it in. I know what I'm going to do there. I'll clean it up as I'm painting. So not everything. I mean, I talk about, you know, I just spent the whole time talking about how I like things really tight so I can paint. Some things don't need to be, but for the most part, you can see how I draw. It's... And there is a band that goes around these curls. Nice. Okay. Give a little swirl to indicate how I want. Make that bigger. Kind of they curve down, like it's like a hood, not necessarily a band of hair or fake hair that goes across his head. It's like a hood. that drapes across the back. At least some of the ones that I saw as reference. That's what I'm trying to emulate. I like the way they looked, and I could do whatever I want, probably still give you the same idea, but I am trying for a little bit of accuracy here. There we go. I'm not worried about too much detail showing the hairs inside this thing, because I'm going to do that with the paint. I'll start in with the basic shadows and then add detail as I go, as always. Just indicating where the shapes lie with as clean a line as possible. There we go. Okay. And he does have kind of a judge's robe, so we're going to indicate that. Let me take down that bottom drawing just a little bit more. You can see. Now see, it's just a very simple outline of the character I've created, but he's still there. It's all him. I'm just going to rely on the paint to tell more of the story. Because that's what you're doing, is you are telling a story with line, color, shape, composition. And we'll look at a little bit more reference for like judges' robes of the era, but I can get away with doing a lot. Making up a lot. I didn't like the way those lines came out. I know they don't curve like that. They do get bunched up at the shoulders though, and there's a seam like here. There we go. Because they have almost very puffy sleeves. Give a little signature. Show them we're going to put that. Don't like where that's going. I'll put it on this side. Some artists make a big deal about where they put their signatures. It's not worth that kind of frustration. So there you go. We have Judge Malleus. Started off with this. Very scribbly. And all these extra hairs and stuff will be there in the paint. And then we went down to this so I can see where I need to lay paint down. And that's how it goes. So I might do a little bit more cleanup before I do the next part of the video series on these characters. Oops. There we go. And, you know, just to kind of tweak things a little bit. And you don't want to sit here and watch me do that all day. That's just boring. But he does have kind of a really hilarious Yosemite Sam style, you know, handlebar mustache. Maybe longer than Yosemite's. Yosemite's was very wide. This guy's very long and pointy. And I love little character details like that. That's where characters live and breathe, in my opinion. These subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, little things that just add so much to their story and make you ask questions about them. Why is he like that? Why is his hair like that? You know, anything that can get a viewer inquisitive about a character is a good design decision. So I'm going to do one thing. His eye is looking slightly down. And that's not a bad thing. That could be a character thing. But I like that they're looking at you for the most part. That's better. And then I'll add a little bit of a cartoonish kind of shine. I always do in the pupils just to indicate a light source. Yeah, so here's a man who is one of the most dastardly judges in the town of Perilous Downs' history. The Perilous Downs is the town where the McMorbidly house was located nearby. He is, let's give a little bit broader shoulder there. There we go. So his wig isn't hovering completely. Alright, and I'll put the M for McMorbidly. And I'll do something decorative with his ascot. Maybe, you know, I've got the hangman's noose around here. Maybe add a hangman's noose design to the ascot. You know, I might change it around, but because this isn't as, it's clear, but it's not as clear as I'd like it to be. It's getting there. You know, it's design and decision. Add a little bit of shadow under here. And I'll tweak a few things here and there, but that's mostly him. So yeah, we've got Judge Malleus McMorbidly, and we have Illuminatria McMorbidly, the younger lady of the house. Wife to Squire Drummle McMorbidly and mother to Snarlette McMorbidly. And Malleus is the father to Drummle McMorbidly and also Goronimus McMorbidly, who's one of the artists in the family. I picked the name after Hieronymus Bosch, who drove these. He painted these insanely surrealistic images of hell. And Goronimus, I switched it around and made it my own. He has similar visions, but the only works of his that have survived is just a dark painting that just defies all explanation and is so dark you can't describe it, and a painting of a fluffy pink unicorn riding on a cloud, and both are utterly disturbing, might I add. So, you know, you may never see those, but you'll see him. He's on the website, and speaking of the website, let me bring that up so you can see it. So this is my website, tkylgentry.com. Here's two pieces from the finished. So this gives you an idea. If you've never seen my work before, this gives you an idea of what they look like in sepia tone. But this is Squire Drummle. This is Judge Malleus' son. This is Snarlette. This is Malleus' granddaughter and Drummle's daughter. And Illuminatra's daughter. Illuminatria, pardon me, her daughter. And this is Goronimus, the painter. He loves to finger paint, and he does not like to use his own digits to do so, so he very casually takes the digits of others. So if you want to see the rest of them, go to my website. You can see them in person. There's a chef, there's a violinist. They're all family members, they're all related. So I urge you to go check that out. But anyway, my name is Kyle Gentry. I'm a character designer. Thank you so much for watching, and look for more videos soon. I'm working hard. This was a little shorter one, and I think I'm keeping them shorter on purpose so people just get a little snippet of what I do as I do it. So there will be a multi-part series. You guys have a great day. Don't forget to hit the like and the share on here so other people can check out the artwork and see what's going on. Don't forget to subscribe so you can catch every video as it comes out, and also hit the little bell just below the viewer window to get notifications for when new videos come up. So you guys have an awesome day. God bless. Peace out.